You're sitting in the third row of an elementary school auditorium in Amman, Jordan. The children on stage are performing a play about Noah's Ark. The man in the wool coat 2 rows ahead of you has been supplying weapons to a network responsible for 312 American deaths in the past 18 months. He doesn't know you're watching him. He doesn't know you exist. Nobody does. His wife is crying at the cuteness of the child playing the giraffe. His bodyguard is checking his phone. His driver is asleep in the car outside. You've been living 1 block from this man for 9 weeks. You know he has a bad knee from a soccer injury in university. You know he calls his mother every Sunday at noon. You know the route his armored SUV takes to avoid traffic, and the alternate route he takes when he's meeting someone he doesn't want followed. Your handler buzzes you once. The package is ready. Someone else will handle what happens next. Your job is done. You close your program. You slip out before the play ends. You're 2 countries away before the news cycle starts. That's the job. They found you. That's how this always starts. You weren't looking. You had a career. Ranger Battalion, then Special Forces, then a rotation with a direct action unit that you're not permitted to name. 15 years of going places that don't show up on deployment records, doing things that appear nowhere. You were good at violence, elite at it. But someone had been watching you for a different reason, not because you were fast or strong, because in a debrief after an operation in a country the United States officially had no presence in, you spent 40 minutes describing the behavioral patterns of a guard force, their cigarette habits, the shift change rituals, the one man who always stopped to check his laces at the same corner. You'd been building a picture automatically, the way other soldiers counted ammunition. Someone noticed. A man sat across from you in a coffee shop near Fort Bragg. No uniform, no rank. He looked like someone who sold software. He pushed a single sheet of paper across the table. No letterhead, no classification markings. The pitch was 12 sentences. There's a unit, smaller than you imagine, does things the regular intelligence community cannot. Military, but not. Every record they have on you ends today. New name, new history, new life. If something goes wrong in the field, the government will express no knowledge. No body comes home, no flag, just a star on a wall with no name beneath it. One question. Are you in? You thought about your family for 2 seconds. You said yes. You've been asking yourself why ever since. The facility doesn't appear on any map. You're somewhere in the American South, and you're genuinely unsure which state. That's the first lesson. Location is something you earn the right to know. They don't care about your fitness. You already proved that years ago. They care about one thing, whether you can disappear. Day 1, they hand you a photograph of a man and tell you to follow him through a mid-sized American city for 6 hours without being seen. You've tracked insurgents through Fallujah. You fail in 90 minutes. A woman with a jogging stroller was watching you. She photographed you 4 times. You walked too deliberately. Your eyes moved in the pattern of someone trained to assess threats. You looked exactly like what you were. Start over. You fail 11 times over 3 weeks. You fail because you hold your coffee cup like an operator, not a civilian. You fail because you wear boots that don't belong in the neighborhood. You fail because when you're thinking hard, you go very still. And very still, people are memorable. By the end of the month, you have learned to be mediocre. To walk like a man slightly late for something unimportant. To look at the world the way bored people do, without focus, without purpose. The hardest skill you will ever develop, being forgettable on purpose. Language training runs parallel. You don't learn a new language. You already know 3. You learn to live inside them. You spend 3 hours learning how to eat soup correctly, not the taste, the posture, the hand that doesn't go on the table, the pace. Get it wrong in the wrong restaurant in the wrong neighborhood, and you are burned. Then they drop you in a foreign city with no money, no identification, no phone, and no extraction plan. Survive for 10 days. Complete 4 objectives. Don't surface. You sleep in a bus station the first night. By day 3, you have a cover story so smooth you almost believe it yourself. By day 8, you have completed all 4 objectives. The instructor says nothing when you're extracted. He hands you a new city name. The next assignment is harder. Welcome to the activity. Some people call it Gray Fox, or Central Spike, or Torn Victor, or Task Force Orange. The name changes every few years. That's the point. By the time a name surfaces in a newspaper, the unit is already operating under a new one. Congress funded it for years without fully understanding what it was. The budget is buried inside documents that are themselves classified. The unit is perhaps 200 people total. In a special operations community of 70,000, you could fit the entire organization in a hotel conference room. You are not the shooter. They establish this immediately. SEAL Team 6 kicks doors. Delta Force takes targets. The Rangers seize airfields. They are the hammer. You are what tells the hammer where to swing. Without you, the operators are sitting on helicopters with nowhere to go. You find what satellites cannot find. You get close to people who know better than to trust technology. You build the picture from pieces that don't look like a picture until they're assembled by someone who has been trained to see it. In 1993, Delta Force hunted Pablo Escobar for 2 years. They had surveillance, they had drones, they had a full Colombian operation. They couldn't find him. Then, the activity deployed a signals element called Centra Spike, equipment that could triangulate a phone call to within a city block in under 90 seconds. The day Escobar died, it was their intercept that gave away his location. Delta and the Colombian police got the photographs. The activity was packed up before the body was cold. There is no movie about this. That is not an accident. The man they send you to find has been wanted for 4 years. He is the logistics coordinator for a network responsible for arms shipments across 3 continents and the financing of attacks that killed 68 people in 2 countries. He doesn't use phones. He communicates through couriers, hand-delivered notes, a system designed to be invisible to every monitoring program the intelligence community has built. You begin with his edges, not him, everyone around him. His pharmacist, who fills a prescription for an elderly relative once a month. His former university roommate who runs a small export business and receives visits from a man matching a partial description twice a year. A woman in a market who pays a specific rate for a specific quantity of a specific product in a combination that makes no sense for a single household. You build the web outward from a center you cannot see yet. 11 months, 4 countries, 7 different identities. You attend a wedding of someone whose friendship you manufactured over 3 months. You sit through 30 hours of business meetings about shipping container logistics that have nothing to do with why you're there. You are always listening. You remember everything. The break comes from a phone that wasn't supposed to exist. A cousin who broke protocol once, just once, to tell someone he was safe. The call lasted 14 seconds. The ISA's signals branch had it triangulated in 11. You're in the target city 6 days later, playing a Dutch development worker documenting housing conditions. You find the building. You time the patterns. You photograph faces from distances that would have seemed impossible before they put the right equipment in your hands. You transmit everything. GPS coordinates to 2 meters. Entry point analysis. Guard shift rotations. Vehicle positions. Extraction vectors. You do not stay to watch. You are 3 countries away when the operation executes. The news says a senior terrorist figure was killed in a precision military operation. No further details are released. The country's government issues a formal protest. The State Department issues a formal denial. You read the article at an airport layover, under a passport belonging to someone who was never born. You close the article. The work continues. You have been 19 people in 9 years. You know this because you wrote them down once in a notebook you later destroyed. Most of them feel more real than you do. The man reading a newspaper in a hotel lobby is more comfortable than the man who used to coach youth basketball in a suburb of Virginia. That man doesn't live anywhere you can access anymore. The divorce happened during your 2nd year. She didn't know what you were. She knew you were gone. She knew you came back different and couldn't explain how. She knew you checked exits in every room and flinched at sounds she couldn't hear and went quiet in a way that felt permanent. She tried to understand something she was never permitted to be told. The distance that builds from that kind of silence is not dramatic. It is just steady, like water wearing stone. Your son is 11 now. He knows you as the uncle who travels for work. That was the safest story. He sends drawings sometimes through a relay your handler set up. Ships, dinosaurs, a dog he wants and hasn't gotten. You frame them in every safe house you use long enough to matter. You take them when you leave. They're in a storage unit in a state you don't live in. 11 years of drawings from a boy who thinks his father is someone else. You think about whether it's worth it. The math of disappeared years against outcomes you are not permitted to know completely. The bomb that didn't detonate, the network that collapsed before it could execute, the 68 people who got to go home. The numbers are real. You just can't see them from where you're standing. You're operating on faith in the mission. Most days that's enough. You're in a cafe. You've stopped tracking which city, somewhere in Europe. The coffee is good. There's a young man 2 tables over, fit, alert, trying too hard to look relaxed. He's watching someone across the street with the specific, focused but unfocused stare of someone who was recently taught surveillance and hasn't made it automatic yet. He's holding his cup wrong, breathing too deliberately. His shoulder angle gives away where his eyes are actually pointing. He's going to be spotted in about 8 minutes if the person across the street knows what to look for. He doesn't know you're watching him. You could fix it. 3 things: the cup, the shoulder, the way he glances up when he thinks he's looking at his phone. 15 years ago, an instructor showed you your own mistakes the same way. No words, just photographs. Of you. Taken by people you never saw. You don't say anything. That's the rule. Always has been. He'll figure it out, or he won't. Either way, the unit continues. New people come through. They learn to walk like nobody. They learn to become boring. They learn that the world runs on information, and the people who gather it quietly, who sacrifice everything to gather it and hand it to someone else and slip out the back before the credit is assigned. Those people are the reason certain things don't happen. No parades, no names, no thank you. Just a star on a wall. You drink your coffee, you leave exact change, you fold the newspaper, you step into the street, sunlight, people walking, a couple holding hands, kids heading to school, businessmen checking their phones. No one looks at you. No one will remember you were here. That's the job. That's always been the job. You disappear.